Beautiful song. The sound that I hear leads me home. I always hope that's true. My parents both died during the pandemic. The mandated isolation was a definite mismatch for their diminished capacity. Even through their old landline, which is all they had, their pain was palpable. Mostly, all I could do was listen from this great distance as they railed about the news and politics. My father spoke in words that were harsh and urged consequences as might be befitting of a former cop. The consequences were mostly for politicians of a certain political party. My mother, on the other hand, threw out theological notions for our predicament. God must really be mad at us was a favorite. It didn't take long for us to get to a place where she fully rooted herself and the rest of us in an origin story centered around a creator God who has been ticked off at all of us since the Apple incident. I didn't argue. My mom was well rooted in the story of her Catholic upbringing, which meshed well with our cultural notion that suffering is caused by our misdeeds. She saw her pain and that of the world during the pandemic as confirmation that we had done something wrong. This isn't really surprising. As humans, we are practiced at connecting disparate pieces of information together to tell a narrative. We often do it unconsciously, and we try to make meaning from it all. We make stories of these disparate pieces of information that we put together in a certain way. And scientifically speaking, we do this because story is what resonates with us. It activates not the data processing part of our brains, but all the sensory centers. Stories literally help us make sense of the world around us, and we are hardwired for them. So by telling herself that God was mad at us, my mom was, strangely enough, drawing comfort from the notion that by mending our ways, by doing right, God would no longer be angry with us and would end our suffering. I think there's a thread to pull on here that says so much. Says so much about our culture, that if only I or we were good enough, if only we didn't make mistakes, if only we would do the right things, as if we can always know what those are, nothing bad will ever happen to us. We will be protected. Many of us might be familiar with a story like that. We may feel some portion of it actually within ourselves right now. Or we may find it writ large in our culture. But this isn't the only story. And it's important to remember that, because a singular story is a dangerous thing. Our Jewish siblings hold a different story, one that I am so grateful for, one in which God and the people are in relationship, in covenant to care for one another, to shape and reshape the world. Their high holy days, as Laura said, begin tomorrow with Rosh Hashanah, which celebrates the world and a new year. And so in prayers, everyone, the gathered people, will say, Hayom Harat Olam. Today is the birthday of the world. You heard about that in the story. And now, though, for those of us not raised Jewish, It might be hard to connect with that sentiment. Yeah, right. Seems like the same old to me. In fact, one rabbi I really enjoy following and listening to, Rabbi Sharon Brous, lamented years ago in an interview I heard that as a kid she just didn't get it. Hayom Harat Olam, today is the birthday of the world, that they would say it with excitement. And it was utterly meaningless, she said. Birthday? Birthday of the world? What? No cake? No gifts? Why was she in temple for hours? What did this have to do with her? Everything seemed old, formal, and irrelevant. And we might have our own version of that, but you heard the story. It was actually one that was told to physician and author Dr. Rachel Naomi Remen by her grandfather, a rabbi. He said the same prayer to her, but he told her the story, and in it there was action and vibrancy, and she loved it because it was from her grandpa and because it helped her understand. She loved that story so much that she is still telling that story some 8 decades later. I ask you what stories you heard that you're still telling. In the beginning, there was only darkness, a holy darkness, though. The Ein Sof, the source of life, the source of it all. And then a moment in time, the world of 1,000 things, 1,000,000 things emerged from the heart of the darkness as a great ray of light. And then there was an accident. And the vessels that held the light, all the light and the wholeness in the world, all of them broke. And the wholeness and the light of the world was scattered into 1,000 pieces, fragments. And they fell into all events and all people, where they remain deeply hidden to this day. That is how our world began, and it too is an origin story. And so as Remen's grandfather told her, humans are a response to this accident. We were born with a capacity to find the light, the true essence. Not light as in contrast to darkness, darkness bad, lightness good. None of that nonsense. True essence. To not only find the hidden essence in events and people, but also to lift it up and to make it visible. People, mere humans, can restore the innate wholeness of the world. That ability is actually a duty in Judaism. It's called tikkun olam. In Hebrew, restoring the world. So in this origin story, suffering isn't punishment. We don't have to lament what we've done just to berate ourselves. Our birth wasn't actually the ruination of the world. Rather, we were born to restore the world, to renew it, to make it new again by recovering the holy essence of what could be created together. To remember and collect and recollect all the sparks within and among us. We do this first with ourselves. Can you hear the difference in those stories? It matters what stories we tell. It matters what we believe about human nature. This is the birthday of the world, invites us to be in awe of the world and our capacity to renew it and ourselves. I love the image of the light scattering of all the pieces. I love to think of it being human work to gather anew the possibilities among us. Truly, that is more helpful to my lagging spirit than to feel like my entire species is being punished either by a grudge-wielding creator or even that we are suffering due to our own mistakes and foolishness, though we're created imperfectly. You pick. Find a third, fourth, fifth, whatever. And yet, it is hard. It's hard to be in awe. It's hard to even imagine sharing in a responsibility to renew myself or the world aligned with true essence. It's hard because this time is hard. Because anger abounds, as does disconnection and ego and meanness. I am often nearly undone. I am sad and I'm tired and sometimes I'm hopeless. And it's not that I can't or shouldn't feel those things. One feels what one feels. And yet, I know I'm called to something more. There's a voice that's calling me home. I know I'm more capable of connection and more generative ways of being when I am not in such a narrow place. And I love that in the Jewish faith that there is a time set apart during the year to recall this story. It's not the new calendar year with its insistence on goals and achieving and becoming a new self, because the other one surely should be let go of with the old year. It is about looking afresh at how I'm living and how I might return to a larger vantage point. This is the beauty of the Jewish High Holy Days. As Rabbi Brous names, this time is about return. It's literally returning to a right path. The whole Jewish notion of sin is you've gone astray and you can turn it around. You see, people have the capacity to make great mistakes, and we have the capacity to turn it around. And in turning it around, healing the world, transforming the world, and it has to start with ourselves, with reflecting on our own lives. And nobody wants to. That's the not so hidden truth, isn't it? Nobody really wants to. We've got barriers, we've got self-protections. We would rather judge others, wouldn't we? Isn't that a lot more fun? Wouldn't we rather complain about politics and policies? We are so unpracticed at the work of self-reflection, we may have even grown unfamiliar to ourselves. Rabbi Brous likens us to matryoshka dolls. Do you know them? The little wooden doll that sits inside the other wooden doll that sits inside and sits inside and sits inside. And each doll mostly looks the same as you remove them one after the other. But finally you come to this little one inside, this little doll inside, which almost doesn't resemble the outer one anymore. It's just this pure essence under layers and layers of beautiful paint and gloss. So too with us. There is something so pure and so good inside all of us, but we don't see it anymore. We don't know what that essence is because we spend all the year layering over it. That outer layer, what we present to the world, that next layer in who we should be, all the things. We're too busy. Our lives and our work and our families are too challenging. We stop relating to our core essence because it's too much, and we are ashamed or embarrassed that we didn't get different gifts than we actually got, and we don't want to own when we fall short, and so we cover over it and try to fit in and just stay afloat. Yeah. Who wouldn't want to look someplace else? So how lovely and loving it is to set aside time in a year to return, to remember this is the day. This is the day to remember who we really are and who we were called to be, so that we bring the gift of our true essence rather than adding to the grim static of our days. Now, let's not kid ourselves. It's easier to react to what's going on, to let the news shape our mood. That's been helpful, hasn't it? And let it determine what we bring to the world. It's tempting to lose track of our essence in the busyness of our days. And so we pause to tell stories, I hope, to remind us of why we might exist. Of the stories, the sounds that call us home. You know, I don't think this story is literally true about the light, of course. Yet it's too important for me not to explore it. Because I know I show up as a better version of myself when I remember that by my smallest actions, I can add light. You see, the High Holy Day season serves as an interruption. Today is the birthday of the world, and we are again responsible for co-creating the world. What will the next birthday look like? Where we are reminded that we're born with the capacity to find the light, the true essence, to not only find the hidden essence in events and in people, but also to lift it up and make it visible. People, mere humans, can restore the innate wholeness of the world. That ability can help us restore this place we call home. This tikkun olam, this hayom harat olam, the moment in which we contemplate the birth of the world, invites us to ask questions. Where are we? Where are we? What have we done to our earth? What direction do we need to move in the future? And you know what's really fascinating to me about this holiday in the Jewish tradition is that it's so important, but the texts that are read are not the triumphant ones. They're not even the inspirational ones. The stories that are told on this day and this time are around the conflicts and dysfunctions and jealousies and fears in one family. These stories are told, and I love what Rabbi Brous puts it. She said, Rosh Hashanah comes and says, stop everything. Stop it. Take 2 days off of work and contemplate the relationship between Isaac, the beloved, the chosen one, and Ishmael, the older, more rebellious child, and what their parents' favoritism must have done to their self-understanding. Amen? Think of how painful it must have been for Sarah to see her beloved Abraham with another woman. Think of how excruciating it was for Abraham to be forced to hurt Hagar in order to preserve his relationship with Sarah. And then think about our own families. The marriage that's no longer a partnership. The calcified dynamic between parent and child, which no longer allows either one to grow. The bitter scripts we continually reenact with our siblings. The aggressive stubbornness that we reserve only for those who are closest to us. The lack of patience, the dismissiveness and insensitivity we show to members of our family that we would never show to anyone else. What would it take, she asks? What would it take to break those patterns? To infuse new life into our old, damaged relationships? See, it's not easy. It's not easy, but Rachel Naomi Remen reminded us, it's always true that we feel we're not enough to make a difference. That somehow we need to be more, somehow either wealthier or more educated or somehow or other different than we are. But as she reminds us, according to this origin story, we are exactly what's needed. We are exactly what's needed. Wonder about that with me today. What if we believed it? What if we believed we were exactly what's needed? What then? Wouldn't we show up differently? Irrespective of my rampant and righteous opinions about whose fault it all is, about who screwed up. about things that are wrong. What if I showed up? What if we showed up like we're exactly what's needed to heal the world, and we started from the square we're on? It's easy to do the same old, to complain, to be overwhelmed by the bigness, to feel powerless. It's easy to imagine we're too little or too flawed to make a difference. But as Remen told us, it's our very wounds that enable us to make a difference. We are the right people, just as we are. But it takes courage, faithfulness, commitment. It takes reflecting, returning, and repairing. It takes the power of covenant, of staying and restoring. So I invite you these days to let this be a season where we explore our stories, where we tell new stories, where we break free from the fatal connections and narratives that trap us into being anything less than who we are and who we were called to be. I invite all of us to listen for the sound of the way home. May it be so. Shabbat Shalom. Amen.